computer. Okay, we should now be recording. And hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'll just double check you can see my screen. So this is the syllabus here for this semester. Ooh, that should be 2021. I didn't even think about the year. But anyway, forget that. It's 2021. This is the correct syllabus. This is me, your instructor. For a little bit of background on me, I have been working in the companion animal area for a long number of years. I graduated sort of where you are at in 2010, which means that I've been post-bachelor's for 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years. 2021, I guess it'll be 11 years now. Yeah, 11. Anyway, we don't care about that. I did my PhD at the University of Florida in the experimental analysis of behavior. So I am by training a behavioral psychologist. However, I've done training as well in neuroscience and general biology. My general background, just you probably don't care, but just to get to know me, is that I was like many of probably what you guys are today. I was on the pre-vet track. I'd worked in several vet clinics, spent many hours there. And that's where I was going to go. But then about my sophomore or junior year, I got involved in research at the University of Florida with my advisor. We'll probably talk about some of the research that he's done at different points in this semester. But I fell in love, and I fell in love with it more than I was in love with the day-to-day of veterinary medicine. So I went through the process of applying to vet school and graduate school. I got rejected from 4 graduate schools, but got into 2 graduate schools, and then got accepted into 2 vet schools. And then I was lucky enough to be able to make a decision for myself rather than people deciding for me. But I decided to go off into graduate school, study animal behavior, and ever since then, I've sort of fallen in love with studying the dog's sense of smell. So our day-to-day research, or what I do sort of with actually most of my time, is we do behavioral research trying to understand how to improve the performance of detection dogs. So we have projects working with the Department of Homeland Security, Army Research Office, as well as the USDA for agricultural detection dogs, and Fish and Wildlife Services, as well as some private industry to try and improve how we train in both an ethically sort of positive reinforcement perspective, but also producing dogs that are better able to detect a wide variety of things, whether it be explosives, agricultural diseases and pests, essentially anything that's needed. So that's what I do in the majority of my time. The other chunk of time is what you see me doing right now, teaching. And the other chunk of time is probably a lot of you know me as your advisor in the companion animal track. Anyway, so that's a little bit about me, what I do, where I'm from, University of Florida, Arizona State University, and then here. So I'm not used to the cold, but anyway, been here for about 5 years. Yeah, I think that's all that I can think about for me that would be of relevance. I do have a dog. A lot of people want to know about that. Yes, I do have a wonderful dog. I also have a wonderful son and a wife too, but then that's about it. All right. It's weird when you're just talking to yourself, you just start rambling off weirdly. Anyway, recommended text. So this is, I put it in recommended versus required. And from your perspective, it's really a required text. I don't put it in required text because I actually got a, I'm not sure, I won't disclose the source, but I got a PDF of the textbook, of this textbook. It's a bit of an older version. If you're one of the people that really need to have a new version, you can buy it for, I think, $160 or $170. But I have a PDF version of an older version, which will be the version that I use. A lot of the behavioral technology and stuff that we'll be talking about while a lot of it's been updated from a neuroscience perspective, a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about from a day-to-day perspective hasn't been updated that much. So I'm going to teach from the older version because I have a free PDF version of that on Blackboard, and I'll show you where that is. So from your perspective, it's required in the sense that you will need to be reading this to be successful in the class. It's not required in the sense that you had to have bought it before class began. That was just me figuring out a way to not cheat the system or go around the system, but try to avoid you necessarily having to buy a textbook that in reality you could have gotten from another source and get similar information. A lot of the day-to-day information I'll be provided in lectures that will be posted online. We'll go into descriptions about that later. But a lot of you are backup readings. A lot of the text, I'll be posting texts online, which will be part of your activities on a weekly basis that you'll be expected to read. And a lot of them will be coming from this book. Some of them you'll just need to read on your own to help solidify things that we discussed in the class. But anyway, so this is going to be your key kind of book, but it's just free. That's why I didn't want to put it on required so that you went out and bought it before class started. These are truly optional. They're really good books. They're very helpful. If dog training is what you want to get into, I highly recommend grabbing these books. They provide, and the reason why there are so many is that they provide a variety of different perspectives, but then also they're quite easy to read. They're more geared towards your typical lay reader. So they're like $9, $10 off of Amazon or your preferred bookstore. So in that sense, they're optional. I give points where those readings would be quite useful in the semester, but you don't need to buy them if you're adamant against not reading and trying to go with sort of the minimum required to get an A on the exam. And then lastly on here is we have Sniffy the Virtual Rat. Sniffy the Virtual Rat is a computer program. You can buy a light license for $10. This one I have in recommended versus required. This might become required should we have to make significant alterations due to COVID. So if we end up going fully online, we can't stay in person, or something thereof that essentially eliminates our ability to do our in-person components in which you would actually be working with an animal as part of the class. Sniffy the Virtual Rat will be that replacement. In addition, as I said in my emails, there's completely 100% way in which you can do this without having to show up in person for anything. While I can't have you train a live dog via Zoom, I can have you train a computer rat via online. So if your anticipation or plan is that you will not be participating in person at any point, I would like you to let me know as we get closer to those areas, but this will become a required component for those individuals to try and supplement or make up for those differences. Okay, so what we'll actually be learning in this class are going to be the principles of animal learning. This is about companion animals, but really the principles that we'll be talking about are the same principles that you would use to understand the behavior of a sea slug, to the behavior of a chimpanzee, to even the behavior of humans. The same principles study across all of the species. They apply quite equivalently across all species. There's obviously differences between species, but the underlying fundamental principles that we'll be learning about are actually all highly similar and quite species independent. That means that while this class will use a lot of examples about our dogs and cats, the fundamental things that we'll be learning about is the same things that you would be learning about if you were working on behavior modification in a zoo, whether you're working on behavior modification as a pet dog trainer, or whether you are working on behavior modification and cognitive behavioral therapies with humans. A lot of these concepts are going to be quite independent and applicable across all. We'll use lots of examples about how we specifically apply this to our dog and cat training, but you'll be getting a much broader education in that sense, which means that a lot of our sort of scientific discussions will revolve around traditional laboratory animals like rats and pigeons, but we'll be discussing how do we apply that knowledge to our dogs and cats. But equivalently, this could be applied to any zoo animal or even humans. Attendance, absences policies. We'll go down to sort of our COVID-related policies in particular. But as I noted in the email, I'm not going to be a stickler about this. In other words, if you've got a sore throat, you're not feeling well, but you couldn't get into the clinic to see if you have COVID or not, and you wouldn't get your tests back, but you don't think if I'll give you permission to, not make it that day, that's not the case. I'm not going to be sitting here and checking things off and making sure that I'm forcing you to be in person. These are still extraordinary times. They're still quite scary times for a lot of individuals. I know a lot of you have a variety of different things going on. Some of you perhaps even have family nearby that might be at risk. I'm not going to be following down and tracking down each of your individual excuses in that sense. So what we need from this class and what I'm expecting of you is that you will put in your due effort to learn the materials, to participate in the things that I try and set up, because you want to learn the material, and this is going to be a part of your education. You want to be involved either as a veterinarian, having a better understanding of animal behavior and how you can help clients, whether as someone who wants to work in the pet industry, how you can be a dog trainer or be a better sort of employee within the animal industry, having a better understanding of the animals in which you work with. Or if you want to just have a better understanding of behavior in general that might help apply to interactions and working with humans. I want that to be your motivation, not whether I will, sort of take off points for not being in class or not. So in that sense, extraordinary times. So I will be quite lax about that, but that specifically, I mean, showing up in person. You'll have activities and discussions that will be available that can be done in person while asking questions in person, which I know a lot of us quite appreciate. But at the same time, if you are doing it completely online and don't want to have any of that in-person component for reasons you don't need to explain to me, then I still want you participating online through the activities I post online. We'll be using feedback fruits, which is in Blackboard, that allows you to do, answer questions that I post as it comes along. It'll allow us to do peer review when we get to later papers that we'll be turning in. So there will be interactive parts other than simply taking an exam and watching some lectures. So I do anticipate you to do that, whether you're doing it from your computer or in person. Lastly, if there's a reason that you need makeup work because you couldn't do it online, say you were substantially ill for some reason, or there is some other university excuse, which approved excuse why you couldn't do something, I will provide the makeup as necessary. However, it's important that you let me know within 1 week of that missed assignment. Otherwise, that opportunity for a makeup will be forfeited. This happens to us every semester, so I bold this now and put it in stars and I'm mentioning it now. If you come to me and say, oh, it's the end of the semester, I would have gotten an A by 2 points, and there was this assignment that I should have been able to make up but didn't make up, can I make it up now? The answer is no. I'm not going back and going to try and track and have you make up a variety of different assignments on the last week of classes because you didn't think it was important enough at that time. You have to do it within a week so that I can keep track. Otherwise, once that assignment is beyond a week old, you've lost that opportunity for that makeup. If you have extraordinary circumstances, there was some kind of car accident and you'd been in a coma for 2 weeks, of course, let's not put it that way, but clearly, the class would not be at the top of your priority list. But if there was some really extraordinary circumstances, do let me know. But generally speaking, if there's no extraordinary circumstances other than you just didn't want to do it within a week, then this policy holds. Okay. So these are our learning objectives. I want you to learn a basic knowledge of animal behavior. I want to prepare students for careers in dog training, companion animal behavior consulting. We have a variety of different follow-up classes. So if this is what you're interested in, then we have a whole track of a series of 3 more classes in which you get a lot more hands-on experience. This is the base sort of lecture theory course, and then we have a variety of new courses coming up to give you the hands-on experience, but think of this as fundamentals 101 in behavior and training with that respect, as well as provide skilled professionals with a basis of knowledge in for companion animal industries, and then help you identify alternative career paths within animal science, behavior, and training as well. Okay, so hybrid description. So this is how our hybrid class will work. On Fridays, you will have, I will post and update our Blackboard for the upcoming week. And I will post an announcement when that sort of tools or when the modules and lectures and stuff will be available for that week. When I post it, it will be a recorded lecture. That recorded lecture will have different points where you can answer different questions to make sure you're paying attention and doing stuff. You can watch it at your leisure. I might do it sometimes synchronous just for fun, but generally speaking, it will be asynchronous and you can watch it at your particular time. However, I do expect you to watch it before you attend a discussion, whether it be in person or virtually. Those discussions, our classroom capacity is the safe classroom capacity, allowing everyone to have 6 feet distance between each other, will only allow us for about 1/3 of our classroom to show up on any particular day. So right now I've gone ahead and in Blackboard, you have different groups, but I've assigned groups 1 through 6 to attend Monday, 7 through 12 Wednesday, 13 through 17 on Fridays. We will vote in a little bit to indicate whether you would like to keep this every week. So every week, if you're in group 1 through 6, your day to attend are Mondays, and every week for the rest of the semester will be Monday. Or alternatively, we can set it so that next week groups 1 through 6 attend on Monday, then they attend on Wednesday the following week, then Fridays the following week, and then groups 7 through 12 start on Wednesday, then Friday the following week, then Monday the following week, essentially just rotating it as a shift so that the day that you attend is a different day each week. Rationale one way or another, for me, the easiest is that it's just always the same. So you don't have to keep track of which day or have to look up, am I a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday or today? But at the same time, a benefit of having it rotate is that perhaps I'm not at my best on Mondays, or I'm not at my best on Wednesdays, or not at my best on Fridays, or perhaps by Friday I'm exhausted and the discussion's kind of lame because I've already talked about the same stuff on Mondays and Wednesdays. Or perhaps I'm, groggy on Mondays because, I don't know, I didn't sleep well on Sundays, something like that. Or, you're groggy on Mondays because you don't like Mondays or something like that. So there's benefits and drawbacks either way. So this lecture, I have a poll already prepared that we'll go over in just a minute that will allow you to vote as to which way that you would want to go, and we'll go with the popular vote. If we're doing a rotation, I will post a schedule that will tell you so that you can look up, this week I'm a Wednesday student, next week I'm a Friday student, etc. You just have to know your group number, and your group number is currently available in Blackboard. I just had Blackboard do the assignments for us. So what will the in-person component look like? It'll be essentially what we call kind of a flipped classroom. So your main lectures will already have been listened to. So this is just going to be, you only have one day, so you only have the 1 hour. And what we'll be doing in that is going to be doing activities that I would normally do during class, where I kind of split up the lecture a little bit or break up a lecture, where we could have, you break into groups and discuss something. Obviously, breaking into groups will be kind of spread out groups, things like that. But anyway, so things where you would talk to one another, things where we might, get clickers and train someone else to do something. We have different kinds of games that I like to play within this class to try and help sort of solidify some of the things that we were talking about. And then also from my experience is that students generally hate asking questions via Zoom or I don't know, even seeing people. Like, I haven't looked through, but my guess is nobody has their video turned on, maybe one person. So there's a variety of Zoom dynamics that are quite different. And some of you just missed that. So if you just want to come in and say, I don't understand this part, can you explain this? And you want me to draw on a whiteboard, this is your day to do that. I will try and record one of these days per week, which will probably be a poor recording. It will be me setting up my laptop, turning on Zoom, trying to get the best sort of angle for the board and me as I can, press record, and then I'll post it. So no promises that this is going to be excellent material, but this is just a way to try and include people who might have quite legitimate reasons for why they don't want to attend in person, but that's just the technology that I'll be working with, and that's what we'll have to sort of try and accommodate with the best that I can. So I will be making one of these available, but obviously you'll be losing that kind of back-to-back interaction. I can try and do it live, but no promises on how that will work out. So if you do want that in-person interaction kind of aspect, then I would recommend attending. This should put us at about 20 to 30 students inside of Animal Science 101. So there will be lots of room to spread out, just so that you have a conceptualization of that. In terms of activities, there will be several activities and weekly discussions sort of assigned throughout the course. This is probably the other sort of key thing to pay attention to. 7 of these will contribute 10 points each to your grade, so a total of 70 points. So it's basically going to be worth more than an exam, almost double an exam. I do these largely because a lot of students can have a variety of different reasons for why they don't do particularly well on an exam. But if you're interacting with the material, you're participating, and you have active involvement, I want you to be rewarded for that. So the purpose of these are not to punish you. They're not to give you hard extra quizzes or be extra sort of I don't know, examination versions, but are rather to be rewards for being around, participating, and doing things. I'm not going to sort of pre-announce when these will be or which ones they are sort of ahead of time. And the reason for that is that I want to be able to have more than just 7 activities without the semester. I'd like to have some kind of involvement of activity of you doing something every single week. But I don't want to give you, your entire class based off of just, doing something every single week. I want to reward a lot of that. So essentially, we'll talk about this when we get to schedules of reinforcement, what type of schedule of reinforcement is. But this is a schedule of reinforcement that means that essentially you've got to be participating all of the time. And then you will get your reinforcer off of occasional of those times that you happen to have answered the questions in the video, so that then that ends up giving you an extra 10 points for just simply answering questions in one of the recorded lectures. So this could be something as simple as one of the lectures, it'll pop up some questions during the lecture, you answer those questions, and if you answer them correctly, you get your 10 points. Some of them will just be open response. So if you participate and try and provide a general answer, you'll get your 10 points. Some of them will be things like participating in a shaping project, then you can get 10 points. Another of them will be, we'll have a project where you get to train a dog in person. And if you show up, participate, and try, you get 10 points. So they're around to encourage you to do these things, to give you, sort of bonuses towards your grade for participating in these events. But they're not meant really as examinable material. But that does mean that when I ask you to do something, you should do it, because there's a chance that it might be tied to an extra, not extra, but 10 points towards your grade. I will grade more than 7 items. So if you happen to miss one, you won't be completely out of luck. There'll be more available, but they'll kind of be spread out relatively randomly, so it's unpredictable, which means that I want you to watch every lecture. I want you to answer the questions when there are questions in a lecture, things like that. So as long as you participate along those, then you'll be good to go. Some of them might be readings. I'll post a reading, and then the reading will include some questions for you to answer along with the reading. Answer those questions, then you completed that assignment, and if that happens to be graded, great, you got another 10 points to your grade. So there's straightforward, simple ways that by simply trying to interact with the material and participate in this class, you'll be able to essentially make up, in a way, an exam. There'll be 3 non-cumulative exams consisting of multiple choice questions. Class has expanded quite a lot, so I usually ask long form answers, but we won't be able to do that quite this semester, so they'll mostly be multiple choice. There won't be a final exam, but the material in this class builds. So if you didn't do well on exam 1, there's a chance you won't do well on exam 2 because you didn't learn that material. If you don't do well on exam 1 and 2, then exam 3 is not going to go particularly well for you. But I won't be asking the exact same material. You'll see them. I've created learning modules within Blackboard, which I will go to Blackboard right now. This is the Blackboard page. Here is your free textbook. Here's a Zoom link for our office hours. Here's the link that you got for today. Here's your syllabus. And then we will have learning modules. So this is where your materials will appear. So this is where your lectures will appear. Each learning module will correspond to one exam. So module 1 will include all of the examinable material for exam 1. Then module 2 will appear, which will cover all of the examinable material for exam 2. And then module 3 will appear, which will cover all of the examinable material for exam 3. Okay, and then lastly, we will have a research project, which we normally have in here, where students will work in their groups to work on a sort of a final paper that covers a research project that we have done. This one, I have very few details on it, and the reason is that I'm really not sure whether we'll be able to pull it off or not, given COVID restrictions. So when we get to the second week of March, that's where we'll have an evaluation period where I'll sort of determine whether we're able to move this forward. Perhaps maybe many of us will be vaccinated and it'll be no problem. Perhaps it could be a total disaster at that point and we'll need to think of an alternative. If we need an alternative, just so you know, our alternative will be we'll do an experiment using Sniffy the virtual rat versus actual animals. So we do have a backup plan. You'll get to do a research project. You will write up a paper. We'll do a peer review process with that paper. That'll be quite beneficial for your writing and editorial skills. The question is whether we'll be able to do in-person work with real animals or not, based off of our COVID situation at that time. So you will have brief hands-on experiences available. And the lab is located in New Deal, which is about 16 to 17 miles away from campus. If you are doing the in-person components, you will be responsible for your transportation there. Due to potential COVID risks, I will have to split things so that there will only be one group at a time, which means that there will be a lot of scheduling. There won't be a ton of opportunities as we might have in a normal sort of semester, because normally I would have multiple groups at the same time, but we'll only have one group at a time this semester. So we will be scheduling it for very specific times, and at that times that will be your activity. If you don't want to attend, you will have an alternative assignment using Sniffy the virtual rat. And of course, if we have to close it all off, then all of us will be using Sniffy the virtual rat. You're already assigned into groups onto Blackboard. I know that there's a sort of tendency for social loafing in groups, basically meaning that I don't have to do it. My partner will do it because they want a good grade, so I will get along with that. To help counter this, we'll be using our feedback fruits, which is in Blackboard, where you will get to rate each of your other group members, provide feedback on their work and effort and the parts that they did. And I will be using this to help identify whether you essentially deserve the group grade or whether you deserve a lower score than the group grade based off of that. Generally speaking, this goes very well every semester, except for 1 or 2 groups. So that's quite common. In this situation, it'll be very important to let your group know, at some point, whether you would be attending in person or not. Because if you're not attending in person, you can still do all of the work that you need to do in the group, but you'll probably be doing most of the stuff that doesn't require any in-person component, which would be a lot of the writing. So this means that you'll need to communicate with your group. I know this can be annoying. People hate group projects, but the second you get out into the real world and have a job, your entire life will essentially be group projects. You do not work independently. You're working with people all of the time. So developing those sort of social communication skills to be able to take a project and produce something which will be a written paper that will be substantial and well done is going to be a key skill for you on the job market. So being able to demonstrate that you can do that, you can work in a group, you can successfully work in a group to produce something that is needed, necessary, and at high quality will be something very, very useful for you to be able to do, which is why I still include it. That's the rationale. So what I expect you to do are watch lectures, read course material, participate constructively in class discussion and activities, complete at least 7 of the graded activities, complete 3 exams, and then contribute significantly to a good quality final written report. This is the point breakdown. If you get greater than 90% of these points, or basically 0.9 times 310, you get an A. If you get between 0.9 and 0.8, you get a B, C, D, and F. There won't be a curve. That means that if everyone gets an A, everyone gets an A. But that also means if you're on the borderline for a C and everyone is sort of on the borderline for a C, then you all get Cs. Traditionally speaking, though, that is not the case. I tend to have a more skewed distribution towards the B and A range than the C, D, and F range. I'll just let you know ahead of time. So there's never been a necessity for me to introduce any types of curves. So don't particularly anticipate that. If we have shutdown due to COVID, you will need access to Blackboard, a webcam, and Sniffy the virtual rat license, which costs $10. Here's more about general illness, absence, COVID situations, and our university statements for a variety of things, which I can let you go through that. Based off of what we are about to vote on now, I'll post our dates and topics and which days people will be going into the classroom. So that'll be available soon. But with that, let me go ahead and open up our polling. So I'm going to launch our poll. Essentially, we have 2 different questions that you can vote for. Would you prefer to rotate or have the same discussion date? Always the same, rotate weekly. And then lastly, I just want to know, you're not bound by this, but I want to sort of better prepare how we're going to do things. Do you anticipate going to your discussion day? Yes or no? I guess I can also clarify, I did do it anonymous, so I won't know what you vote for. Give another 10 to 15 seconds for our remaining 3 votes, although it's quite clear what the answer will be regardless, but I'll make sure you have your opportunity to contribute. All right, apparently 3 are going off and getting a sandwich. All right, so poll's quite clear. Would you prefer to rotate or have the same, always the same? will be the winner. So that one, it will be the same, and then we will just go ahead and follow. If you're in group 1 through 6, you can attend Mondays. If you're in group 7 through 12, you can attend Wednesdays. If you're in group 13 through 17, you can attend on Fridays. And I will anticipate to see most of you, an overwhelming majority of you, in attendance. And for the 3% who do not anticipate attending, that is perfectly fine. I will do my best to record one of them and post it, because obviously, even if you plan to attend, you might be sick. So I'm anticipating that some people who wanted to attend will not be able to attend. So I will do my best to do what I can to record that and also make those available for you. Oh, wait, I don't know if it says share results. So now you can see the actual results to prove that I'm not making things up. And then I'm going to stop share. I will turn off our recording.